Tell you how it's done. Above average black men shining like the sun. With Chris Sr., Chris Jr., Devin on the beat. We're telling stories from the heart. Feel the pulse in the heat. Yo!
Something for everybody.
Yeah, something for everybody. In topic of conversation. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yo, step into the
Some
room.
important things to
Bringing
that.
that vibe. Highlighting kings
I
and
don't want to
queens.
get too much without getting over
I'm excited for this one.
I got
I think you will be.
a lot of different takes to this.
Yeah, we're going to report.
I feel like we always end up coming over to talk about history. Like, that's what we know. You know, we are talking about some of the things historically that got us where we are today. Outside of
So you didn't want to do
journey through laughter and tears, celebrating achievements, confronting our fears. We interview the dreamers, the we raising up these brothers, positive vibes only, breaking down the hate. We rebuild our narrative, it's never too late. Hear about the scholars, the athletes, the artists, in the world full of chaos. Their light is the sharpest. Yeah, tune in, don't miss it. We get pumped in the shit.
welcome.
Above average black
So,
men,
somebody got to be creative.
we talk real talk, keep it raw and authentic. Tales of perseverance, nothing sin.
Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Pender Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to hopefully empower, inspire, and uplift.
And to criticize.
As always.
As
always.
Devin Pender here to remind you all to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, and interact with us.
Yes. How can you not uplift without criticism? How can you uplift
I
without
prefer
criticism?
critique. Typically, when people criticize, they don't have a solution. When you critique, you have a solution. See, you know, it's the difference, man. You know,
I don't know.
I wasn't seeking your approval.
I know.
Like telling one show.
It feels good to say that sucks.
I don't know what to do with y'all. I really don't.
Listen, I think it's actually a great segue, just, going into our topic today.
It sounds like this when I realize your mom's kids.
Yeah, I've been realizing that too.
You know, years y'all enjoy the athletic prowess for me. This I don't know what's going on with y'all.
Yeah, so it's like
sarcasm is all catch wit. I don't know.
cats with, yeah. I mean, it's actually really funny that you said that, because I was like, yo, mom, really is fun. And like that's probably where a lot of that comes from. That you got jokes too, but it's that competitive dog.
See, that's how you know you're getting older. When all that stuff was irritating you young, and now it's funny. That's how you know you're getting older, man. And that's kind of segue into what we're talking about, because me and my impromptu surveys, man. The old Kevin Hart thing, and it was blowing up, and then he blew it up more with his, I don't know what that was.
His interview.
His so-called interview. Yeah,
I heard it. See, I heard pieces.
I heard. And so now you have this young lady from Philadelphia, doing his voiceover saying, Kevin Hart, we disowned you. Laura from Philly, and this is why. And then his snippets and stuff. And so my question was, does comedy go too far? What's too far? Because what really sitting there about over was the joke about George Floyd. Probably it was, and then the comedian, and he has a history of saying some racially charged things.
Yes.
So I think people were trying to deal with it. Well, first, because Tom Brady kind of complained too
about the last previous group.
Yeah, but
They joke about his wife.
Yeah,
his family.
And anyway, so you get here, and I think Kevin was cool until he tried to explain it. He made it worse. He tried to make it seem like it was irrelevant. It didn't matter. He had no control. First of all, and it kind of had no control made it worse, because that's him and Cat Williams having that beef all along about people going to streaming and stuff, and they had just made up. And then you go prove his point. He just go prove his point. And then he didn't see any wrong in it. And I think sometimes you can say something as a comedian, but you got to come back and say it was wrong.
And I think that's okay to do. Yeah. I think it's okay to be like, I had a bad taste and judgment. But I think like the interesting part of this is like Kevin Hart is getting held more to the fire than Tony Hitchcock, the guy who actually said the joke. And yeah, it was the roast of Kevin Hart. Like, I guess it's like strange to me to solely put the responsibility all on Kevin Hart.
Like he was supposed to stand up during the middle of the roast.
Well, but
His reaction is the problem. Yes, I get that. Like being able, if he would have sat there stoic and not did anything, like, do you think people still would have a reaction? Like, I can't believe that was on Kevin's Hart.
I think so. I think that'd be probably Kevin Hart.
You know, there's different aspects. I'll look at it from this aspect. The reason why Kevin Hart is being held at a higher, standard right now is because one, the climate. This climate right now, when it comes out to America, is very toxic. He knows that, everybody knows it. People are really super sensitive now. I mean, and they should be. The second reason we hold to a standard is because, to me, that guy felt comfortable crossing the line. And at any time he could have said, whoa, even in a funny way, and he didn't. And he didn't. Anytime he could have said, whoa,
that's the point.
Yeah, but he didn't. So to me, that's almost like acknowledging it. And then it made it worse because you saw the face of some of the people when it was said. Like, you saw the face, like, what? Yeah. So
I would say that was the only thing I really didn't agree with was like, where did that joke even come? Like that had
it was unnecessary.
I was even Charlie Kirk thing. I
didn't like the Charlie Kirk jokes
out of nowhere.
I didn't like those either. I don't like the idea of just kind of playing around with somebody's death like that. And like, even sometimes it's a little cringy when they joke about Pete Davidson's dad dying in 9/11.
Or like, even when Regina Hall joked about his mom.
Or like, Cheryl Underwood. And her. But you know what? But this is the thing about comedy, is that there's different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? Tony Hinchcliffe has a cult following. Like, he been like that. I've seen him. So I was very aware of how and who he was before he even got to the show. So like, I think that's one thing that people don't take. Like, this is your first introduction to this guy in some cases. And like, with him even being on the show should have been like some type of alert to you. Like,
that's what everybody said with Kevin Hart. He should have known what he was getting.
But this is the other part of it. When I said, because I've been having conversations with comedians in Philadelphia about this. Like, if you pay attention to that, everybody on there has a Netflix special. Yeah. That was very very strategic in regards to who was on that stage. Like, it was only certain names and certain people.
But I think
Tony's got Netflix.
But I think it has to be a level of responsibility. I do. I just believe it do. I especially one who, I immerse myself in history. And as I said the last show, I'm in a generation where we kind of was the tail end of it. So we kind of saw the videos firsthand, and we kind of lived through the changes. We saw the changes and the promise of the bright future. And now we see it, we're going backwards. And it makes you analyze things different. Like, I give you a perfect example. There's a song we sung every day in elementary school. My Country, 'Tis a Thee, Sweet Land of Liberty. We sung that song. We did it because we really believed it. Now you go look, it was a racist of the song. Like, we're not going to let. No, I mean, they told us to sing the song. Stars Spangled Banner. So all this stuff, the timing of the thing was which made it even worse.
Yeah, the timing definitely made it worse. But then even just thinking about and talking about history and just comics, comedians, like they're a different breed now. I feel like back in the day, like, they stood for something. A lot of those guys,
they were racy too. They were racy, but they would come back and apologize.
But that
was a poor taste. Yeah.
Right.
That was a poor taste. Yeah.
They stood for something. You know what I mean? Like, even your George Carlins and your Richard Pryors, like, like, because I'm like, I'm in the comedy thing now. You know what I mean? But these guys, like, they stood on and for something, like Dave Chappelle, like principles. And I think, like, it takes a special individual and a person, to be able to look at themselves and be like, I have a responsibility with what I'm doing, and take ownership of that. I think we have way too many people that are in those spaces that are willing to say and do whatever at the expense of, other people and themselves, like their morals. And I mean, that's the predicament that Kevin Hart is in. They making jokes about it all night. Like, he'll do anything almost for $1. That's the joke, the running joke. And it's like,
but that kind of fed the narrative,
right?
That fed the narrative.
Yes.
And it was ironic because Cat Williams came out at the beginning of the show, and he sits and they kind of buried the hatchet. And then Cat Williams out and left, and then his response was, this is typically how Caucasian people respond. I called Steven Jackson and right away. Like, he don't speak for all black people because that was George Floyd's friend. You know, what kind of respect? He was a breakfast show. They was like, huh? Like, what kind of response was that? Because you called him, so he said it was okay, so it was okay. And we don't know if he said it was okay or not, but I'm just saying that was his response.
So also, again, thinking about historically speaking, comics like Dick Gregory and guys who were tapped in socially.
Yeah.
How many comedians can we say are that tapped in socially? You know what I mean? Where they understand what's going on and like, you know, understand that who they are represents so much more than just themselves.
I don't think it's a lot. Because
Maybe not.
nowadays, these comedians get money.
Maybe not tapped in. So I'm gonna come to that.
Yeah.
Maybe not tapped in, but you have to be aware that you're a black man in America in 2026 and all the things that are happening. You may not be tapped in, you may not, but you know George Floyd. You know what happened to Rodney King. You know what's going on with all these kids being shot. Tamir Rice. You know that. You know, Aubrey down south. You paying attention to trying to take African American history out of school. They're trying to gerrymander because you know, but they're trying to change so people can't vote. Then on top of that, you're in the middle of this debate now because now the NAACP, they came out with their project, to get athletes not to. So all this stuff is a firestorm. That's you just threw a can of gasoline in the middle of it.
But that's the thing, and I feel like some of his answers were pretty evident about he know, but he don't care.
Okay, but then but no, I'm okay with it. I'm okay, but if you don't care, then don't sit there and try to defend it. Like, no, if you don't care, just say that. If you really don't, then be man enough to say. See, we gotta say in conduct. Say what you mean and mean what you say. If you say something like that, Dave Chappelle will stand behind what he said and say he said it. He ain't sitting up there talking like back. No, he says it. So do that. No, he's not Dave Chappelle. But I'm just saying, if you say that, if I get you on my show and you say something, I'm honestly defending you, do it with conviction.
What's crazy is Dave Chappelle came out and kind of said, apologized for some of his jokes in regards to just feeling like it fed a narrative and gave it fire to a rhetoric that was out there.
But this is my question. Okay. And how can I say this? They stayed clear of Jewish jokes. They stayed clear. Anything they could have got them yanked off the air. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Pete Davidson did have a good Jewish joke.
And every joke about ethnicity is wrong. Every joke about, but so I'm just saying. I just think at some point, and I hear you, and I do. I hear you, and I know that's your craft, and you enjoy it. And I've been talking to people out there about it. I just think it's someone who kind of you see this unfolding, that there has at some point, even if this not it, there has to be a lot. Like Tom Brady had a great point. Yo, we in the middle of a divorce. You know I'm going to my kids. They shouldn't even involved when you bring them right in. This is his buddy.
So this is where it's like, all right, let's throw this at this. We historically speaking, we know what roast are and how they get down. I've been watching them for quite some time. Always been pushing and towing those lines. I think it's just kind of interesting to me as to make why there's so many more eyes on this now. Like you said, maybe it's the climate and where we are, but the one with Flavor Flav was Flavor Flav, great.
Even Bob Saget.
That I remember that was wild things. So it's just the idea, this stuff has been here.
But you know the answer to your question. You say it all the time. Social media at an all-time high now.
Yes.
So before, Bob Saget, you had to wait till the next day or something. Now this stuff is the minute the last word comes out of his mouth is all around the world.
I think we literally just had this show too, the Kevin Hart Funny AF. Yeah. So it was a lot going on, and I felt Shane Gillis. It was a bunch of different, and that's the one thing about the roast. I feel like usually you had that one person, and it's people that are close to them. You know. Yeah. It was definitely a gamut of people there that I felt crossed a lot of different backgrounds.
I'm not into comedy, but I could tell. Even Kevin Hart's opening line, you know about your enemy. So I know it was there to promote interest and get people in it, but it's different now because Richard Pryor, it was live. You had to wait weeks or the tape came out or something. Now, and you couldn't, but now you couldn't alter it. Now that stuff is out there. As soon as that last word comes out your mouth, man, it's fun. Now with AI, people can adjust and say stuff. What time you play it. Yeah, but when people see it, different time frame. What time you play it, the audience you're playing to. And there's just so much stuff going on. Like I said, voter registration, man, removing African American. You know, it's just so much going on right now between the races that I just and as a white guy, he wouldn't understand. I give you a perfect example. God came out yesterday, and it's the dumbest thing I ever heard, but it's true. He claimed he adopted a black girl. He swore he didn't know racism exists until he found out till he adopted a black girl. And you know, we can call it naive, because you want to say it, but there's people who live under and when you white, you don't always understand racism because you kind of explain it away. Oh, because maybe he didn't surrender fast enough, or he looked menacing, or I felt threatened for my life. So all that stuff comes to play when you see this. And I'm not putting this all on Kevin Hart by any means. My question is not even about him; it's about comedy itself. He's not on trial. It's about comedy itself.
That's what I was going to bring up and talk about. Is like. I mean, it depends, honestly, the perspective of what you think comedy is and what you think that is to you. But I know, me personally, I like to make jokes about a lot of different things. Do I feel like a lot of things are probably, do I think like things are off limits? Maybe. I don't know. It's weird because I really feel like I've made a lot of different jokes in my life about so many different things, and people have laughed. So that's actually the interesting part about it too, is that like I think comedy in some cases, like it's supposed to toe some of those lines and like be close to offensive in some instances. But I do think you gotta have kind of that like the understanding of like, yo, who you offending and how you offending people. I think that to act like the things that you're saying don't invoke any type of feelings and they don't matter. That's the part to me that is kind of like baffling, that comedians just want to act or pretend like, oh, it's okay, it's just they're jokes. But the reason why we even do it, say some of these jokes, is because we know and understand that it invokes a certain feeling or a certain thought or a certain.
But that's my point. When you tell a joke, timing is everything. You can't get to the punchline too soon or too, and even the way you place your jokes on the set means something.
Yes.
They should feed up. So he knows that. It's not like this somebody just stood up at an open mic night. He knows that. Everybody on that stage knew that. And then, and for the white guy, the audience you're playing to. So you know the audience you got out there in front of you. You know that.
That's actually an interesting thing.
You know the audience you're playing to. And so for you, so I'm looking at it like he just didn't care. And to me, it felt like he didn't have enough respect for Kevin Hart. He didn't respect the audience. You just went in because you wanted to do routine. And you put a good point. I didn't know Netflix, because money, devil, you said money makes people do things.
But you know, was the biggest black crowd he ever like.
Yeah, they could.
It's probably Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis is an interesting person in this as well, because he is friends with Tony, and he kind of came out of this where people keep throwing that he's a racist. Yeah, but I've met him before. Cool dude. Like, I don't feel like I was getting any of those vibes. And even just listening to some of his stand-ups and his jokes, like, you can tell where people's heart is at with how they deliver certain things. Tony, I think he's a big idiot. You know what I mean? But Shane, I don't get that.
He's more left-leaning.
Yeah, he's definitely left-leaning. He's like from this area, like Montgomery County, Buck County type. So, but none to say, like, I think seeing his interview, like, he's been doing some stuff with Cheryl Underwood, like, and Matt McCluskey kind of with all the undermath and talking things through. He made a joke that was extremely offensive, that he knew it was, he didn't want to say it, he kind of was uneasy about it, but he was working it on the road, and when he was working it, all these comedians do this, they go to open mics
to try that.
Yes. Yeah. And he made this point of like, maybe I shouldn't have went to these places, because all of these places were like, oh yeah, do it, man, that's gonna kill. He was like, it's Boston, North Carolina, like
Texas,
right? Texas.
But again, it's about knowing the audience.
And that's what I was about to say.
And knowing your crowd.
That's what I'm about to say. These dudes have a crowd though, or audience where
that one is.
No, I'm saying though, but when you step into that space there, I'm not thinking of like all the time who's in here. I'm bringing who I am. Y'all brought me here because of who I am, not because of like y'all want me to fit this space, right? So that's actually, again, like at the top of it. When you see his name on the list, it's like you automatically want to know, like, it's going to be foul.
But see, I disagree with that. I think it's like,
If you hire Richard Pryor, you know what you're gonna get from him.
Yeah, but
I know what you're gonna get. You're not gonna ask him to come in there and start doing Bill Cosby comedy.
No, see, it's not about knowing what you're gonna get. It's about knowing the room you're delivering it in. I get exactly what you're saying, but it's about knowing the room you deliver in. If you go there and you got a bunch, you go there, you got a bunch of jokes about people who are mentally challenged, and you walk into a crowd, you're not gonna be. You change up your tone a little bit. I'm like you
guys don't.
And then they that's why some of those guys don't successful. It's like when I go out to speak. I prepare to speak.
That guy. You wanna know why they like that guy? Because they're like he sees
some people like that guy. But then you gotta know that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying people don't like it. I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is you know the audience you're playing to. You gotta know if you're down south and you're in the room and you know you're in the room with a bunch of racist people, you gotta be careful. I see you, but I'm just saying that's why you recognize the room. It's like I'm like, the event you did. You recognize one event and didn't go too well. You recognize the room, like, yo, this is what's but you already. So you recognize the room.
But you know what's crazy? I stayed true to myself.
But you ain't said the extra 5.
I'm going to say that's what a lot of common. I feel like we'll start doing is I'm gonna lean more towards myself. I'm gonna get the respect factor.
But you're
not changing up. Just
your ability to adjust. And anything you do determines your success rate. It does. And it's like when I go out to speak, if I'm in a room and I go to a room and I'm going to talk about African American youth, and I'm in a room and I see a bunch of Caucasian people, my message is going to be different. It's going to cover some of the same stuff, but my message is going to be different because it's not the same when I'm around people who know the culture, who understand the culture.
Yeah.
So you do.
But I feel like comedy is a little different because then it's like, who are you? You constantly bend into because they're here to see and know like who that guy is on the stage and what he is about and his perspective and his take. That's why they are listening because it's like he has something interesting to say.
But I don't think it. To me, I don't think it says who are you. Your ability to change and still be funny. Now, you're right. If you have nothing else to go to, I get it. You have no repertoire and you get out there and you set to do this routine and but at some point in time, it's like you adjust. And I'm saying I'm not saying you have to get rid of all these jokes, that particular joke.
But I think
and you're in the middle of civil unrest and you talk about a white cop who stepped on a black man's throat and he murdered, basically. That wasn't the time we need to tell that joke.
But you know what? This is maybe a history lesson for everybody.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Doesn't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. He has a venue in Austin, Texas called The Mothership. And all these comedians from all over the place come down there. It'd be packed with white people, and you'll hear some of the most racist, foul, bigoted jokes that you'll ever hear in your life.
He knows his crowd, right? He knows his crowd.
And that's what I'm saying. He's been doing this for eons.
Yeah, but he messed up there because like Devin said, maybe this is the first time he's been with that many African American people.
They put him on Netflix. He got his show on Netflix. Outside of this, before it kind of hurt things.
Right now, with the climate, he's going to be on Netflix because there's a large population. Netflix is trying to draw a new population, but that population wasn't the population that was sitting there seeing it. And again, I don't want to put any one comedian on trial. I want to make that abundantly clear. What we're talking about is that did he cross the line, and did the joke cross the line, and is there a line that can be crossed? I don't want to sit here and say because I don't know what was in his head. I don't know him from a can of paint, so I can't tell if he racist or not. But what I'm saying is, to me personally, I believe there is a line you can cross. I believe sometimes too far is too far. That's just me. Now, you're a comedian to you see
so
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So I heard Marlon Wayans talk about this. Even he said it was like the problem with joke. His opinion was it just wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun.
If you're gonna like do something, like make sure like
what is not
get
funny?
the laugh out of maybe some of his family members.
See, that's not funny. You do that at the barbecue where everybody look like you, they laugh. That's what I mean, knowing the rule. If you do that at the barbecue where everybody look like you, they're gonna laugh at you. But if you do it in the room, people that's been persecuted and you've been all kind of stuff, racist stuff. They don't think it's funny.
I mean, messenger man, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think again, so Kevin Hart is getting a lot of flack for this, which is like it kind of makes me mad because
I don't want it to be about him.
It's like why are we not getting at the guy who actually delivered us as a joke?
I want to. Is there a line? I don't want to.
Is there a line?
I think I agree with you, but Kevin Hart, you can't have the fan.
Subjective.
This is like you can't be the captain of the team and expect not to get any backlash. That's just the way it is. Wrong or right, it was his show. he's supposed to be the big dude. Of course, they're gonna blame him. Now, is it too? I think some people go too far. Yeah, but that comes in territory. So I'm not. And his explanation was terrible. Him trying to explain that just made it worse. So to me, after that point, I was like, okay. But if you couple that with the stuff that's coming in the White House right now, you couple all this other crazy stuff going on. The timing was terrible.
You know what?
It was
terrible. It's like, can I say cross the line? I mean, who am I to say that my line is crossed? I think it's certainly subjective. There's people who probably thought that was funny, not me. There's people who thought that Charlie Kirk joke was funny, not me. Like, or find other jokes funny and stuff.
Underwood.
And I think it's like that's why I keep saying it's like in a way. I mean, it's subjective. Did it cross the line for me personally? Yes, I'm like that's not funny. But I know me personally, I've laughed at probably a ton of things that have offended people, and people may say cross some lines. I've said and done those things. But it's all the idea of like again, comedy is so subjective.
It is, but there has to be
cross the line.
But there's certain things
when it's not funny. Yeah.
But there's certain things
when it's not funny.
No, there's certain things to me that's not subjective. I think human decency is not subjective. I think reading a room is not subjective. I mean, it's just I think those are things that if you've been around a long time, you should pick up your room. Because it's not because you know your audience, you know your room.
You don't know every room you're going into.
When you're a comedian, you get a feel. If I'm up there, unless I'm the very first guy, you get a feel of them.
You be wrong.
And if I know I'm going to be, I know if I'm going to BET, I ain't gonna be with a bunch of KKK guys. I do have a feel was in the room. What I'm saying is, when you know your audience, it's like if I went into a place where everybody had a 6th grade education, and I'm using words out of thesaurus, and that ain't gonna fly. That's some people may know, but most people not. It's I go somewhere, I'm telling farm jokes, and I'm in a city where they don't have any rural life. So you do have to figure out your audience.
That room was weird. It was LA.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it wasn't.
All over the place.
I'm smart enough to realize the climate we're in right now, this ain't the time to make a black joke, especially about somebody who got actually murdered. I mean, I just think, to me.
So are we saying we can't make black jokes, or was it specific about?
You're not hearing what I said. Timing. I said timing. Your question. Because I said timing. I said timing of thing. Because I agree. Part of what you said is he plays that in different rooms his life. But recognizing the timing of it all, everything is going on. That was just poor taste. So maybe I use that term instead of it was poor taste for the time we're in right now. It was. It was just, if you turn around, you got all these social media pictures flying around about African Americans being hung, being burnt. Everybody, the argument with the NAACP about this. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on about race right now. It's just a lot of stuff going about race. You got a lot of people not trusting people.
I think that's very fair for that. You got to tell people what the joke about, what you can laugh, what you can't laugh at. I just think that's a
no. I didn't tell what the joke about whether I thought it was good or not. Again, I'm talking with the comedy across the line. I'm not telling you that's not his fault, but there has to be a line. So there's no line. Nothing's off. It's not any joke. Some jokes you tell are not offensive. And some jokes you tell like
someone somewhere can be offended.
That's always a possibility.
Now y'all stressing it. We getting up. He's not on trial. He's not on trial. The question was about comedians, period. I'm not trying him. We're going to try to trial. But you saying, okay, if that's the case, then if nothing's off limit, then you would say whatever. And it doesn't matter, right? You just go.
This is something that we can't, that cannot be joked about.
It's not about it cannot. If it's the right time to tell the truth. I didn't say, I said it was the wrong place and the wrong time.
I've heard so many comedians make jokes about something that may have happened the day before.
It don't make them right either. It doesn't make them right either. You just think yourself, when Dave Chappelle came back and he apologized. Sometimes you gotta admit it was wrong. Sometimes you gotta go back and say.
I think because it was not even about the joke. It was more so the influence that it had.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't expect it. Wasn't the joke was funny, but the timing was the type that was it was bad taste. It was the wrong time for the joke. That's what I'm saying. I'm not whether it's funny or not. You're right. That's up to people who listen to the joke. That's what I can't enjoy that. But the timing of it was just wrong. It was just for all the stuff that's going on, man. You paying attention to this? It's crazy right now. On both sides. That's not even on the political side. The crazy stuff that's coming out of Agent Orange. It's just a lot of stuff going on. And I think you have to kind of be careful. I think you gotta be careful.
I mean, it's like, who are we even asking to be careful? That's the thing about it. Who are we saying needs to be careful in a situation? Why should he?
I mean, See, we go back to the question again, and I'm not answering for everybody. Me personally, I think there is a lot.
So white man.
Me personally, I think so
that lives in Austin, Texas.
Keep going, because now you prove my point.
No,
now you prove my point.
Why should he care? Why does he have to care and would be worried about?
But you know what?
The lines that he's crossing.
You're absolutely right. But that's why he should be held accountable. That's my point. I'm not. Whether he care, I can't make him care. But he should be held accountable. Then, if you, it's the same thing. I'll go back to Kevin Hart. I don't want to keep saying his name. Say if Kevin Hart just say, "Yo, it was comedy. I stand behind it." Don't soft you come up with all these different angles. If you believe it wholeheartedly, then go with it. I'm just saying, if you believe wholeheartedly it was the right thing, the right time, go with it. Say it. Say it. And the same thing with him. If the guy believes it, fine. But I have a right to hold him accountable. I have a right to say this. Like if somebody walk into a place and all black people, they start using the N-word. Yeah, he may believe it, but I got a right to hold him accountable. That's my right.
Yeah, we should be holding this right accountable.
And I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing at all.
Well, most times in roast too, people don't understand is it's not like Kevin Hart can handpick everybody,
I didn't
know that too. Certain people they just already have handpicked, like a Jim Ross. Most of the time, they just know who's supposed to be. You might not know Tom Brady like that. You might not know some people like that.
When it first happened, I didn't blame Kevin. I don't know blame Kevin Hart now, but when you're the head of something, you're gonna be responsible. That's just the way it is. It's just like when somebody the TV show is on the network, they go after the network. So I hear what you're saying, but that's just the way society is. The person in charge, the person, the face of the order, is typically the person that gets the heat. Wrong or right, it does.
Okay, that's wrong. Why are we going to Netflix? That case, then.
But see, take what they see.
The one that put it on. The people who put it together.
But Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart is saying he has all this creative freedom. He got this, he got that. What I'm saying is his show, his name is on it. Whether it's any show you look at on TV, they blame the person. That's what they do. America, you look at a football game, they blame the quarterback.
Does that mean it's right?
But you understand this goes back to what I'm saying, understanding the culture. It's not about me saying it's right or wrong. It's understanding the culture. So what I'm saying is I'm not defending that they're going at Kevin Hart because I agree with you. He shouldn't take all the heat. But people typically, and for different reasons, some of us probably jealousy because he is making all this money. He cleaned up, came out of nowhere, so that could be some of it. Some other people don't know all facts. They just know it because the media says stuff and they just jump on it. But that unfortunately they do. They play the blame game in this. That's what they do. They play the blame game. And I'm not saying it's right. I agree with you. They should not be just beating him down and excusing the other guy. They chose to do it. Don't ask me why. I don't agree with it either.
I think my thing is even just it's interesting when you brought up that point down thinking about well, Netflix. Why would y'all put this guy, these people on this roast of Kevin Hart?
Because they knew that knew something like that could happen.
I know, but even that made me larger point of just TV in general and the powers that be allowing for certain things to happen. Remember the Tourette's?
We've never met
Tourette's girl, Tourette's guy who said the N-word live on TV. Right, but they blocked out somebody that said free Palestine.
But how many? But look how many times we mentioned Netflix today versus the time we mentioned before. They knew what they were doing. They knew that was going to draw attention to them. Good, bad, and different. They knew that. That's why you put that together because now you told me that. Now I'm thinking, okay, now I know who this guy is.
People went back and watched it.
I'm saying so. That's what you ask. Why would you put? That's why you put them together because people going to come good, bad, and different. People going to come watch now. People, it's like the accident. You see the accident on the road, everybody slow down to see the accident. It's an accident.
It's more of a rhetorical question. We know why.
That's what I'm saying. No, but that's why they do it. They don't care about it. They don't care about what race of people got hurt or anything like that. They care.
And that's why I also brought up the point of that person that had Tourette's and can yell out the N-word in the middle of Michael B. Jordan. And
he shouldn't have got a free pass either.
Right.
He shouldn't have got a free pass either.
But you could have this delay set up and cut things and edit things when they say free Palestine or when somebody deserves to say. But when this guy says the N-word, that comes through clear as day.
Okay, but what does that tell you about? But what does that tell you about how the U.S. as a people? I'm just saying. So we pile on.
Now that's why again I am adamant about pointing out and talking about Tony Hinchcliffe and Netflix. and being the conspirators of putting this together. That's fake. That's
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this.
And here's the thing, though. Someone else. A lot of times they have writers.
Yeah.
Someone else wrote the joke.
So
well,
he said, and Kevin Hart explained, because, you know, people have writers and stuff. And he even talked about how you don't mess up another comedian. He did. He went through the whole thing and, you know, you don't try to control the comedian's flow. He did all that. And he was fine until he got to the point where it was like, you don't really know what's going on. You knew this dude. You knew the dude was cutting that. You know, and even afterwards, you didn't come out and say anything. And then your statement was, well, I called Steve. Come on, man. That's like I know a black guy. I called Steve Jack. That didn't make it okay because he was born with Steve Jack. So I agree. It should be enough to go around. They should not be just hammering him and they should not be beating him down. They really should. I agree. They should be getting another dude. But, you know, it just, unfortunately, that's what we do here. They look for somebody to dump on. And honestly, he's the easy target because dude is crushing.
But I think my thing too is probably why it makes me even more frustrated that we are putting this animosity and these vitriol towards Kevin Hart. It's like, how are we gonna let this white dude escape? You know what I mean? And be able to just let him talk and like be this mouthpiece and say this, but then we want to ride and kill the black man and make him responsible.
I tell you how.
Like, that's nuts to me. Like, granted, he can be wrong if you want, and like we can say all these things of like how he in this position of heart, but then like to let this white guy, like,
the fact that more people were upset about what Kevin Hart said than what's happening in this country right now answered your question. It was the easy target. And I say it again because they do want to pick on Kevin. He was the easy target. He got all kind of great stuff going on and stuff, man. And you know, and they came in. But I agree with you 200%. No, they shouldn't have. But you also, like the person who comes on and says, okay, well, you know, we're going to denounce him. You know, because you know we're going to kick him for Philadelphia, whatever. That ain't the worst thing that ever came out of Philadelphia. It's not. But and let's be real. There's people who feel done a whole lot worse than Kevin Hart just did. But you know what? The person get their 15 minutes of fame because everybody kept playing the snippet all over the place. You know, so you know, people come for different reasons. And again, more people are upset about that than they talking about cutting daycare. You know,
17 schools closing in the city.
Well, that's a whole different. Some of those schools, that's a whole different.
I understand it, but I'm just saying, there's so much going on.
I agree. So, but that's my point. People got more upset about that than they did. It is a different story.
Even just the wrong person. We so quick to hold like these certain people accountable versus like the real people that we need to be putting this energy towards. Like, it's crazy how badly we try to police ourselves and not turn up on people outside of us.
But it's been happening. It's been happening for decades. When rap music first came out, the first rap music came out, it was pure. It was about social justice, social conscience. And then what happened was, you know, people who don't look like us got involved, and they thought it was okay to start using the B word and all different stuff and different things. And nobody ever held them accountable. They got on the rappers. They got on the rappers big time about singing that song. But the people who put the airways and paying and publishing, they never got on that. They never said it. And that, unfortunately, I agree with you. But that's what happens here. They don't get on the people who behind the scenes, who are driving, who getting rich. And they make, you know, that population made millions of dollars off of it.
I'm not for it anymore. I'm like refusing it to be the one to jump on the nonsense of just going with the flow where everybody else tells you the point and go. Like, that's honestly what it is. It's like somebody was like, we need to be mad at Kevin Hart. Everybody decided. Like, yeah, be mad at Kevin Hart. And you don't even know what you be
But it goes back to the time. Some people are frustrated. Some people are angry over different things. And it gave them a common enemy to attack. Some people got so many issues. It's probably not even about him. It's just somebody that's been discriminated against, and he just happened to be easy target because he's a part of it. You know, and so I agree with you. But it's called America.
Kevin Hart is not my king.
It's not about being the king. It's like somebody says all black people, a white person says all black people because a black person did something. Or a white person who says, oh, black person says all white people. They hold it, then it comes out. You know, and I think for him, some people, all the frustration with all of this stuff, he became a target. He was an open target right there because of that one thing. Yeah.
I mean, even the reason I'm saying Kevin Hart is not my king just because I'm not that emotionally invested in what he does. Like, yeah, I could care and have my opinion. I understand that, but like the amount of energy that people I feel like are putting into this and him.
Whew. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That's what sells right now in this country. We talked about the between Stephen A. Smith and what's the dude?
My guys, sorry,
no, what's the dude? Stephen A. Smith, sports guy, going back and forth.
Nick Wright.
No, not right. No, not him. The guy you just did with that dude.
Oh, I was gonna say because Stephen A. Smith, you know, Whitlock,
Whitlock. Well, now him and Jalen Brown on it. You know, and now I'm watching these shows. Athletes are like taking sides. You know, and some of them you can tell they got to actually burn with Stephen A. Smith because they start bringing up stuff in the past that really had nothing to do with this. You know, but that's what people do. That's what he do. No, but people wait for an opportunity to jump on. Sometimes they just wait for an opportunity. Yeah, but it don't make it right. It don't to Chris's point, it don't make it right. You got to hold everybody at the same level of accountability. You do. You should. I do agree with that. If you want to get on him, you go on this guy.
Yeah. And you know, it's another thing. I just thought about Malcolm X. Yeah. And when he spoke about comedians and entertainers and athletes that are being put in these positions to speak for us and social issues or be the voice of Black people, and how much of an issue that was. And like we're seeing it play out right in front of us a little bit, where it's just like you got people that we are looking at to be representatives for us who don't care. That's not something in their mind where they are like, yo, I want to be this for Black people. You know what I mean? They're doing these things because it's self-fulfilling.
But we also have to realize the media's been doing it. It's like my friends and I joke about this. It's like they'll come into a neighborhood in North Philly, right? They'll walk past 10 educated people well dressed to get to the lady with no teeth in her mouth, the bonnet on her head, who can't hold his hands together, and she represents the whole community. The media's been doing that. That's what they do.
That made me think about remember that
they do. That's what they
the car
do.
accident and the crossing guard, the black boy with the ice cream.
That's what
I'm just saying, yo, that was like a few weeks ago, and like
that's what they get the worst.
First off, he's awesome kids across the street.
They do. They get the worst. It's the same thing with athletes. They'll take a Caucasian athlete, and they'll get his best picture to put up there, and he get arrested. Man, the Black guy get arrested. They gonna find the worst picture they can find to put the mugshot to put up there. They've been doing it forever, so it's not new. The only difference is now, and I'm going what you say it all the time. Social media makes everything in real time now. You don't have to wait a day or two to get it. You get it in real time, and most people, they get it so fast. They get emotionally charged. They don't think about it. They just get emotionally charged. Some white guy cut me off, gave me the bird today. Now he signed with this white guy. That's when the men went to women and men versus that. Same thing. Stuff happens so fast now that people don't get a chance to say, man, sit back. No, and it's coming at them full speed. Boom, 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 boom. Sound based. And we're going to play part of it. We're going to show Regina's Hall's face the whole time because she had this stood look on her face. That's the face that you saw. Like she was the only person in the audience the whole time, and everybody
about that too. She was the last minute addition.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they show her face because she didn't think it was funny. So I mean, we know the media's going to do that. That's what they do.
That might have made it worse.
We know the media's going to do. The media is not its job not to put our best foot forward because it don't sell. It don't sell.
I like looking at this list of comedians here, like just Paul Mooney, Bernie Mac.
These guys are cutting edge.
Like cutting edge. And it's
cutting edge.
Names that I certainly resonate to me, and I think about some of their jokes and I think about the era and time that they were in and think about like, man, what would it be like if they were here or present today?
Like
Patrice O'Neal, like it was guys that, yes, they offended people. They were offensive. And I feel like they leaned into some of that offensiveness. Maybe not as much. I don't want to say Bernie Mac was legendary to me. Yeah. But it's jokes that he said that are like, that went fly today. Talking about his little nephew. You already know
calling his niece and nephew crack.
Yeah. It's like certain things that it's like a Red Fox. Like, man, he used to curse.
But that's in the room. And I agree with you that, and I agree with you. But they knew the rule. You can't do that now. There's certain things you just could not say now.
someone should have said something during Kevin Hart's roast. But you know what actually is interesting about that? Was he last? Was Tony last?
No, I think he was in the middle.
I feel like he was kind of because I feel like they didn't put anybody that I felt like after him that would have went, and killed him.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
No, but if you listen to Kevin Hart,
That's kind of interesting too.
I don't know the comedian scene,
Somebody recorded
so you maybe, yeah. But he talked about that though, and that setting, the way that show was set up, who was going to do it?
And you know what?
He said, who was going to do that?
This is where I will say.
He didn't know. Nobody did it. He's not who would have done it. Nobody did.
This is where I will say. Kevin Hart did have the mic legs. And each and every person that goes up there, one after the other, after you hear what somebody says about you, you reacted to that. And so you hear what they say to you, like that's something that you like, all right. Because I've done it. Like I've been in a room, I've been on the stage, and then you hear something, and like, oh my, I have to mention that reference and talk about that. And he definitely, at the end, had an opportunity to do that. Of course, he had his preset jokes and stuff like that, but there was an opportunity where, I'm just thinking about the Flavor Flav roast and Patrice O'Neal and how he went off script and just called it straight out, like, yo, he was like, William Shatner, you racist. Like you shocked. Like, he was like, I'm surprised at how racist you are. Like Captain Kirk, you're a racist. And he sat there and he went in on it and called it out. I don't think we have a lot of people like that now today that do that.
But you know the history Captain Kirk is. He didn't want a horror to be on the show. Just certain things. He was into Captain.
But to call it out, like you know what I mean, in the spot, like that's what people wanted. With somebody to be like, yo. That's not Cheryl Underwood did it. She was calling out Shane Gillis for some of the things that he was saying, but like outside of her, and Chelsea Handler, she did it.
Yeah, she been going on.
But it really wasn't a lot of people. And Chelsea Handler, even for her, like she went so early that she didn't get to go after him and like put him in his place.
I give you a perfect example. Simone, when she made the comment about MLK.
Oh, B Simone. I thought you meant Simone.
No,
B Simone.
She made the comment about MLK. Folk went right at her. Now, maybe because she was a female, maybe because they went right at her.
Because that wasn't a joke. She was serious.
She was dead serious.
She was dead serious and ignorant. Like, it wasn't a roast. She was on a podcast and was going in.
But I go back to what you said. You put a comedian in that situation like this, and I'm not making excuses. Not making excuses.
But you're right.
You put a comedian in this, we don't know what her politics is. We don't know how polished she is. We don't know any of that. So it's like this goes back to what I said. When you pick the worst person on the street, and people look, oh, that's so North Philly. I'll be going with doing with stuff running down. And that's what they do. But we gotta do that also. We gotta have some kind of accountability in place with each other. Somebody should have pulled Kevin aside and said, okay, that was really messed up. So that was inappropriate. Somebody should have said something like him. Maybe the time was off on that joke. Somebody should have said something. And then if he would have came back and defended it, fine.
It's interesting. Tom Brady did that when they joked about Belichick.
Yeah. He definitely did. He definitely did.
And again, to me, as somebody who like I remember those videos with Ruby D and Ozzie Davis, when they live videos of people getting dog sick on the hose on them, man, they get beat. But I kind of came with the tail end of the original thing. My dad would tell me stories about the racist stuff that was going on. I remember because my dad driving my dad's car because my dad had a Cadillac. I would get pulled over, and I would ask the cop, "Why you pulled?" Or what somebody like you doing driving the car? So I saw it. So to me, it's like, yo, I don't think those things. Some people think it's funny because some people tell jokes about that when they get pulled over. I don't think it's funny. To your point, I don't think it's funny because I experienced it. But I think for somebody now this race to get up there and just start, that's a death. That's a murder. It's not like he fell out of a chair or something. Like, yo, dude got murdered, and I to me I find no humor in that. Whether it's Charlie Kirk, whether it's him, I just don't find humor in it.
And I think that's again where it's like it's some people where obviously they found some humor in that because he would make jokes. I've heard some Charlie Kirk jokes.
Well, the writer must have done it. What the writer must have done it was like. The writing must have thought he was going to laugh out.
People tolerate a lot. Really like, you know what I mean?
But listen to the words they tolerate. Keyword.
Let things slide. They definitely let things slide.
That's
He in that place of where do I think Kevin Hart is going to experience anything from this other than this
he got that
bit of discomfort? We're gonna get a Funny AF season 2.
Well, no, we were right. People, I'm gonna tell you, Netflix will get a boom because now people will go to Netflix to find out who this guy is, and they're gonna start watching these guys. So I mean, no, hey, Kevin Hart. I mean, as much money and stuff. And one thing I say, he's strategic about. He'll let 3 things out at one time, and 2 years, 3 years go by before he says something else out. So he ain't dummy. I mean, I think to him the narrative goes back to what Kat was saying. You say you got all this control, Kat saying, and it seems, but you go in and show that because you don't. You know, you out here balling saying you the boss, but then you go into the Breakfast Club trying to defend it like you don't.
That's a good point right there. Just tell me how you really feel, disguised as a joke. Yeah. And that's when you get things that I feel like are not funny. And that's.
But how do you know the difference? How do you know it's a joke or how this guy really feels?
Tony Hinchcliffe was saying, and I'm just like, because I've seen him in the past and how he get down, he got a lot of hate in his heart. He got a lot of hate in his heart. And that's where, again, do I still like crossing the line? He has an audience.
I'm asking, is that crossing the line?
He has an audience.
But is that crossing the line when you're in front of a black audience?
Me,
when you personally, black audience, is that crossing the line?
It's black people who thought that was funny. That's
I got to. If I like when my mom died, had I went somewhere
outside of Kevin Hart,
but if my mom died and I went somewhere and somebody cracked a joke, we got a problem. Now maybe 2 years later, but at that moment, the hurt and pain and stuff I'm going through, then we crossing the line, man. You going somewhere, we go.
Cheryl Underwood told a joke about.
No, I'm talking about. I said if my mom, I said, yeah.
Cheryl Underwood it's one of her jokes. She was talking about how when her husband passed away, like one of her good friends was crying like way too loud for her husband that passed away, for Cheryl's husband. And like she went up to her and she said she like like took this out like, hey, you crying a little way too hard. But like she made a joke out of it. And she said they both was laughing in that moment and people thought they was crying. But it's like it's weird because some people deal with certain things.
They do. I'm not disagreeing.
But I just think, and I do say, but I will say for me personally, I'll say that joke. Yeah, I don't know. I was not a fan of it. Was not a fan of it. It wasn't funny. Yeah, it was not funny at all. And when you don't have, I think when you have a joke like that where it's not funny and like you just your only intent was to be hurtful and harmful. I think that's where, even for knowing, again, Kill Tony and how they do things down there, that's their whole setup is shock and horror. Like to the point where it's like, the dudes are not even being funny.
Shock culture.
They just saying racist stuff. Like, no, like I've watched and seen way too many clips of that. And the part that drives me nuts is the black people that go down there and try to be on some of those shows.
But you always gonna have that. You always gonna. There's black people who thought slavery was cool. There's black people. You always gonna. Look, there's a bunch of black people who voted for Donald Trump. So I'm saying you're always gonna have the person of color who tries to get on the other side. And so I'm used to that. Yeah, I am used to that. So, but I also think there has to be a point in it, and it maybe not, but there needs to be a point in everybody's life where they put their foot down, where they say, okay, this is not acceptable. And it's different for everybody, but there has to be a point for me because of everything I've seen. I don't call it the N-word. I remember playing baseball when I was playing American Legion, and the teams would come play us from the Northeast, and we would never bother. It didn't dawn on me until later on in life that the schedule was like that on purpose. They want to play us first, and then we go play them. Every occasion neighbor would come out. I'm a young man. You call me nigga about to the dog. I wasn't ready for that, and we just trying to play baseball. We went up there. We just trying to play baseball. And we didn't have any thugs. We did a bunch of young guys trying to play baseball. Same thing when I went to school. Funny stories. Never heard this story before. My parents, I had to be there early because I was playing baseball and basketball. So mom and dad dropped me off. So I go running across the field. And everybody stops and look. So I turn around and look and see somebody behind me. It didn't dawn me I was the only black guy out there. And I just didn't know. My mom and dad thought that was so funny. And even when I first got out there, I could tell some of them had never been around a black person before. They were just uncomfortable. Yeah, I know you did. They were just totally uncomfortable. And as you get to know them, some of them come back and apologize. Say, hey, my dad, mom, somebody told me this, I was wrong. I had a guy said apologize to the whole team. But at that moment, man, you feel small. And some people don't get beyond that trauma. At that moment, and when you have your moment, we talked about this the other day. And when you become a parent, how do you teach your kids about racism? without making them hate people. How do you have that conversation? And it's different for Caucasian people. It's like I was talking to a white guy last week, and he was talking about police and everything. And I said, but let me tell you something. I can't tell my sons to run towards the cop. You might get shot. You can tell your son to run to the cop at all. My kid got to figure out when he can stop by a cop. Is it a good cop? Is it a bad cop? Your kid ain't got to figure it out. So I say that because at some point, enough has to become enough. I don't know the point. I agree with you there. I don't know the point. And it would be unfair for me without knowing all the facts to say this is the point. But for me personally, I just don't think that's cool. The perfect example was, what's the guy with the church joke? I thought it was funny. The guy came down, and people got offended by that. To me, I thought it was comical because that stuff happens in the church. Yes, people do. It's not like he was making stuff up, and it was funny because who was the comedian? Who came out and said it was I can't think of his name. He said people act like this is not happening. Like he just sat home and made this up. He took this from what he saw. So, but
that's a great point. That's a good comment.
Yeah. But some people,
that offended some people.
Yeah. So to me, if you're not coming down on the wire from the ceiling, why are you offended? If you ain't, like Paula White, same thing. People joking about her because she's telling people, if you put money on the altar, I'll pray for you. So I mean, it's always going to be with that line. And so I just don't know where it is, and that's why I pose the question: is there a line? Is comedy just? And you just named a bunch of people who pushed down.
Pushed down. Was right on that line. The line seems like it's always moving.
But most of their humor was kind of embraced too, because I think out of all these, they didn't.
But even thinking about George Carlin, like he talked about some things where he was towing some lines, some political lines. So.
But he was also the timing again, and I get what you're saying. I'm not a comedian, but those guys lived in times, man. Like George Carlin, the time he could go back and forth. He could, because you had some Caucasian people who were simple. He could go back and forth.
He talked about anything.
Yeah, he did, and then nothing was off limits then. And he did. So I guess. I just think that at one point, and the whole discussion for me was, is there a line? Because you get different opinions. You hear comedians come out and say, one comedian came out and said, when you're up there, you're in the flow, you got your control in your head. He said two things. Sometimes when you're struggling, you just go to that joke. You ain't sitting up there trying to figure out, you got to figure out you're trying to make it up.
It works.
He said, because sometimes you're up there in a minute, so it's like 5 minutes. So you're just trying to get it flowing again. And he did say it. Another comedian said, even in your mind, sometimes you may think the joke is distasteful, but that's all you got. He said, if that's all you got, and you got to be 15 minutes, and that joke is in the 15 minutes, so I mean,
running short on time.
And I heard,
can't take that out. You gotta keep that.
And one guy said, in our business position before, one guy said, you know what? When I wrote the joke, when I told the joke on the mirror, it was the funniest thing in the world. But when I heard myself say it out loud, it wasn't so funny when I saw the reaction. So there are all a whole bunch of different reactions. There's a bunch of different reactions.
Everybody guys want to work these jokes out in front of an audience before even.
But what audience? So, but like you said, what audience?
Get into that stage. And I think that's the point that I even was trying to highlight and make here earlier is that there's a lot of outrage. There's a lot of people that was like it. So that's when you say a line is it crossed the line for some people, but not all people.
Well, let me ask you a question, and we'll close out on this. Now, I ask both of you. Do you think there's such thing as too far?
Me personally, I would say, just like I said, there were certain things that I feel like I wouldn't feel comfortable joking about or saying certain things, but I know I've made jokes that people would be probably horrified by.
I just don't personally like speaking on the dead and different things.
The dead.
And I feel like there's a certain kind of karma or something that comes with that. So I just don't like
breathing, rolling around and get it.
But and I'm gonna say this is probably the craziest thing, but it's funny because black folk will fight because you say something about their mama. It don't matter how old they are; they will fight over a simple thing you say about their mama. So it's kind of interesting how we.
I don't know if they're doing that anymore.
Yeah, they still. I got
that's how my mom does.
I got adults. I have adults who little kid. I have adults who little kids is about their mom. They get upset. So yeah, that's the problem. There's people. I'm just saying. There's still people who got that thing, man. And I end up saying the same thing. Well, you know it ain't true. So what's the big deal? But so I'm just saying the thing.
That's why the kids don't get mad about it.
People are. They just. So what you think? People are too sensitive? You think people too sensitive now? No. You think people too sensitive now?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do think people are way too sensitive. Even to the point where it's like nobody's saying that you can't be offended by things, but it's like people melt, they can't function, they can't concentrate.
I don't like the
people writing letters to people now and crying.
I give you a perfect example. I don't like the I'm deeply offended when people use the word. I just got a problem. Now, because I've been called in other contexts, NIGGR, not the NIGGX. So I do have a problem with the word. I don't care how you use it. I got a problem. But hey, friends. And I have a bigger problem when Caucasian people use the word. Because in my mind, and this is just me in my mind, I don't know how they really mean it. Do they mean it the way you mean it when you say my brother, or they mean it the way because I'm calling you an ignorant, stupid? so in my mind, both of them. I'm just saying. So this goes back to how do you gauge if somebody's too sensitive? Because how do you gauge if somebody's too sensitive? We're about to close because your history is your history. I don't know your history.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you get married, and I say this all the time. You got a Volkswagen. Your wife got 22 cases. You got 22 cases. Only 10 going to fit in it. So you start throwing stuff out because you don't know. But as you get down the road, you start unpacking these suitcases. You have no idea what's in those suitcases. You don't know. So to your point, I do kind of agree. You don't know, but it's always the risk, man. When you go down that road, man, and you could mess somebody up pretty bad.
And that's the risk that you take as a comedian.
Yeah, but you take that with someone else's life. You actually, that's the risk you take. So they go home and commit suicide. That's the risk you take.
The idea sometimes people trying to push the envelope and be funny, and I've been in some open mics
and that's why
you know what's actually funny that made me think about an open mic I was at a couple weeks ago, and I was just hearing the craziest stuff all night. But when I got up on stage, I was like, thank everybody that's still here. We survived all the homo sexism.
Yeah. Another great show. It was a great show because we went over. You did one time city. But I would love, to get. We can take some. I would love to get. No, I would love to get. And this have because we can do it all. They can get home. I'm just curious about what's the thing? What's the range of it? Everybody saying this is cool. We can tape it and then decide who's gonna play it. We can tape it and decide who's gonna play it. Put this on. When I do enough is enough. I do enough is enough. When I do one enough, I take it and play we can take it and then decide who's gonna play. I mean, that's a good conversation. I mean, even a bigger conversation with us is deciding where we stand right now. Oh, that's over.
On our next show. Thank you guys. Appreciate it as always. Make sure you empower, inspire, and uplift.
Like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. Please declare to be a